This tutorial is for 5th grade, Module 3, Lesson 3. In this lesson, we're going to use the rectangular fraction model to help us add fractions that do not have like denominators. When I look at a problem such as 1/2 plus 1/3, in order to add them, I need to change each fraction into an equivalent fraction so that they both have the same denominator. We're going to find that common denominator by using the rectangular fraction model. To start, I'm going to show 1/2 on this rectangle. I'm going to divide this rectangle with a vertical line. I'm going to shade in 1/2. The 1/3 will be shown on this rectangle, but on this rectangle I'm going to divide it with horizontal lines. So the key here is one rectangle gets divided vertically, the other rectangle will be divided horizontally, and I need to shade in my 1/3. I still have 1/2 and 1/3. Now to find my common denominator, I'm going to copy my 1/3 drawing on top of my 1/2. In other words, I'm going to now partition the first rectangle into thirds as well. But when I do that, you see that I've now divided this first rectangle into 6 pieces, and 1/2 of the rectangle is now equal to 3/6. The entire rectangle has 6 pieces, 3 of them are shaded. On the 1/3 rectangle, I'm going to draw the 1/2, just like I did on the first rectangle. And again, that gives me 6 pieces. So I have 6 pieces, and 2 of the pieces are shaded. Each rectangle now has the same denominator, which allows me to add my 2 fractions. 1/2 plus 1/3 is the same as 3/6 plus 2/6. Well, if I have 3/6 and I add 2 more 6 to it, I now have a total of 5/6. So dividing the rectangles this way gives us that common denominator that is needed to add the fractions. Let's look at another example. This time I'm adding 1/4 plus 1/3. And again, I can't add 1/4 and 1/3 without common denominators. I'll begin by showing 1/4 on my first rectangle, and I'll draw those lines vertically to show my fourths, and I'll shade in 1/4. So this represents 1/4. I'll show 1/3 on the second rectangle, drawing horizontal lines, and I'll shade in 1/3. So this rectangle equals 1/3. Now we have to find our common denominator. I'll do that first on the 1/4 rectangle by drawing the lines to separate this rectangle into thirds, just like I did on my 1/3 rectangle. Now you can see that I have 12 pieces, so my new denominator is 12. Out of the 12 pieces, 3 are shaded. 1/4 is the same thing as 3/12. On my 1/3 rectangle, I will divide it using vertical lines, dividing it into fourths, just like I did on the first rectangle. And now again, you can see that we have 12 pieces in all, and 4 of the pieces are shaded. That gives me my common denominator of 12. 1/4 plus 1/3 is equal to 3/12 plus 4/12 for a final answer of 7/12. The next problem is a little bit different because the first fraction does not have 1 as a numerator, but we're still going to use the same process. We'll start by drawing 3/4 on the first rectangle. I'm going to divide it using vertical lines into 4 pieces, and I'll shade 3 of the pieces to show 3/4. The second rectangle is 1/5. I'll use horizontal lines to show my fifths, and I'll shade 1/5. Now we need to find our common denominators. On top of my first rectangle, I'll draw fifths using horizontal lines, just like I did to show the 1/5. When I do that, you can see that I now have 5 rows of 4, or 20 pieces. So 20 is my new denominator. And if I count to see how many pieces I have shaded, I can see that I have 5 pieces in each column. 5, 10, 15 pieces are shaded. 3/4 is equal to 15 20ths. To change my 1/5 into 20ths, I'm going to divide it into fourths using vertical lines, just like I did when I first drew my fourths on the first rectangle. Now you can see we also have 20 pieces, and if I look, I see that I have 4 pieces shaded. 1/5 is the same as 4 20ths. Now I can add. I have 15 20ths plus 4 20ths equals 19 20ths.